Well, yeah, first of all, wow, thank you very much. Wow, this is a great turnout. Hope you like the room. Hope you don't miss the buzz that we all loved in Greenberg, but it really is. It's great to see so many of you out here. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Can you compare where you're at this year to where you were at last year at this time?
You're talking about the team on the ice?
Team on the ice.
I can't.
As a whole.
I can't. As far as the team on the ice, we really don't know. We're allowed very limited time with them on the ice, so our viewings have been very limited. But I can tell you that as a program, those 2 years that we had leading up to the Big Ten were extremely important. We talked a lot about building a foundation, and that was certainly something that our players really understood. I think I've said many times, Tommy Olczyk understood it very well from his recruiting trip on. And he's been very instrumental in building a foundation. So in terms of that, how we represent ourselves, our work ethic, which is on the ice, off the ice, in the classroom, is all at a much better level.
What's it going to be like to practice, finally get rid of the buzz and finally get down to X's and O's?
Well, it'll be a lot of fun. It's not all about X's and O's. I think it's just being together with the guys on a daily basis and having enough time that you can correct things. Not just run drills for the sake of getting them done quickly, but actually correcting them and moving forward. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think everybody's looking forward to it. Obviously, you don't have a lot of time from October 5th to October 11th, so we have a lot of work to do in a short period of time, but I think everybody's really itching to get at it.
Did this place surprise you at all? Was there anything about it when you finally got to walk around the Final Four that maybe took you back? Was it what you expected it to be, maybe more?
Well, we had extremely high expectations, so it's certainly everything that we expected. I think personally, and I'm sure I can speak for the players and our staff as well, that we just can't wait to see the atmosphere that first night that the student body creates. It's every time you take a look around this arena, you stop and you look at the student section. It's really hard not to imagine how great it's going to be. So I think the building has exceeded our expectations. I think it's beautiful. I think it's great for our players to develop. But really, we won't really know what it's like until we see the atmosphere October 11th.
To follow up what he was saying, basketball just got their preseason practice period extended to 42 days. Football never really stops practicing, and you guys get 6 between your first practice and the first game. Does that put an added premium on the work ethic that these guys have to have in the offseason versus when you can be around them all the time?
It does. It puts an added premium on the work ethic. It also puts an added premium on your leadership because so much of the work that has to be done is done through captain's practices. So we're very fortunate. You look at the leaders that we have, and I already mentioned Tommy Olczyk really understood very, very early on what it would take to be successful in the Big Ten, and certainly the limited amount of time, 2 years to lead up to it. So it definitely, our practice schedule definitely puts a premium on leadership, and I think we're very fortunate in that category.
Is that something you think should get changed?
Oh, absolutely. It's nothing, trust me, there's no hockey coach in the country that thinks that's the way it should be. It's just the way it is, and we have to work with what we have.
Is there a reason it's like that? Has it always been like that? Was there safety concerns or what?
It's not safety. I think it's the idea behind it is to get more easily acclimated into academics. So I'm certainly not going to speak against what the rules are for the NCAA. They have good reasons for it, and I believe it's based around academic acclimation.
What's your reaction to the response from the community? You have long lines out the hub for student tickets.
Yeah.
Season ticket sales are down, about 20 or so tickets left. What's your response from that?
It's been phenomenal. I mean, that along with the question of the building, it's been everything that we expected and probably exceeded our expectations. I know that if you speak to any of the staff that goes out recruiting, we receive as much excitement outside of State College as we do inside of State College, even across the border. So there's a lot of people very excited about what's going on, very curious as to what's going on. But to see that happen right here in State College, the response from the student body, the response from the community with tickets and season tickets, it's awesome.
You guys have the midnight practice coming up. How cool is that going to be?
We're looking forward to it. I think last year was we didn't know what to expect. We had no idea, and I believe we had something like 500 people come out to see it and then to skate with the team after. So I think we're really looking forward to it. This will be many of their first look at Pagula Ice Rink, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the guys want to get it going.
Can fans stay with the team again?
They can. After practice, I believe it starts at 12:01. and we'll have a practice, and people can watch, see what we do, and then come out and skate with us after.
Last year you talked about what Keith Fisher and Matt Lindsay did on the recruiting trail and sort of just how tireless those guys were. How has their pitch changed now with Pagula in place? I mean, are there different things they can sell kids on now?
I think seeing it is certainly different than just trying to explain what it's all about. They certainly are still on the road tirelessly. They do it doesn't negate any of the work that they're doing, that's for sure, but it might make it a little different pitch in terms of showing them, actually being able to show someone a picture of what it's like, or in some cases having them come on campus and walk them through is a big difference in explaining it to them. So and I think when the real difference is going to be made is, again, when we see the atmosphere inside Pagula Ice Arena. I really think that's going to be a really, really special thing, and is going to separate Penn State from a lot of hockey programs because of it.
When you talk about recruiting, you hear in football, Maryland and Rutgers, they can sell recruits on the fact they're coming to the Big Ten. Can you do that in hockey?
Absolutely.
What's the, how much does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually extremely exciting for all of college hockey and hockey. The Big Ten, the fact that we now have a Big Ten conference is huge. There's a battle across the border. We try to get the best hockey players in North America and beyond, and part of our competition is major junior hockey. And until this year, it was very difficult for people across the border to get educated about college hockey, and the exposure that the Big Ten Hockey Conference is going to bring is going to be great for that battle. It's going to be great for educating everybody about what college hockey is all about. And I think when you see the Big Ten rivalries, the excitement is going to be phenomenal. I think the intensity is going to be phenomenal. I think you're going to see as the best college hockey games that you have, and it's going to be broadcast live across North America. So it's a very important thing for all of college hockey.
Coach, new facility in place. I'd say you had a pretty good season last year, first team, one season, pretty good recruiting class. How long is it until Penn State is established as one of those forces to be recognized, one of those top programs in college hockey?
Just a quick, easy question, huh? That's a tough question to answer. I mean, I think we all have very high expectations of where we're going. We can't. I don't think anybody's going to say this is when we're going to arrive and be known as a power. But certainly, if you come to Penn State from the staff, from the players, you come to Penn State to be one of the top programs in the nation and try to win national championships. I don't think, if you don't have that in your mind, then you're not coming to Penn State. So we certainly have that as a goal. All of us in this program, from the staff down to the players, certainly see that vision in our heads. I don't think we're going to put an exact date on it, but we certainly see it in the future.
Given how well your team did last year, your words, you exceeded your expectations last season. Do you think the bar might be raised maybe too high for this season?
I think it was great experiences that we had last year, and I think we learned a lot from the successes that we had, as well as some of the times that we didn't see results. Certainly, I think some of the wins that you're probably talking about against the Big Ten opponents that we were able to play last year, that those wins probably came a year ahead that anybody thought it might even be possible. I know many thought that it wouldn't be possible in our first year to have wins like that. I mean, this year coming up, our first year in the Big Ten. So it might have, I don't know if it necessarily raised the bar, but it certainly has accelerated the process for what people think is going to happen. As I mentioned before, I think we have some very high expectations for this program. Maybe what happened last year might accelerate those expectations, but it certainly doesn't raise it any higher.
Do you think that affected it more outside or inside the program?
Both. I think that we were pleasantly surprised with the results that we've got, and I tell you what, it was a lot of fun, and it gets a little bit addictive. You want to do it over and over again. So I think a little bit of both. I think people were certainly surprised. If you ask Coach Fisher and Coach Lindsay when they go on the road, certainly they received a lot of comments about, wow, we certainly didn't expect that. So there's expectations outside have changed, and I think ours have here a little bit as well. I don't think going into the season last year you could ever have expected it, and when you get a taste of it, you want to get it again and again.
Coach, on the ice, last year you had rotating parts of goaltending position. It's an all-important position. I know you didn't have a lot of time to practice, but what are you going to do with that position going forward this year?
We don't have any preconceived notion of how it's going to play out. We're really going to let the goaltenders handle that, and we're very, very fortunate. I mean, we're really young, but I think we're really good too. So Is it a negative that we don't have an established guy? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's a positive that we have three very capable goaltenders, and I think that's the way. If you talk to the best goaltenders, I think that's the way they like it. They don't like necessarily anything just handed to them. I think the fact that they have internal competition that keeps them sharp and they support each other. I think if you have a situation where they don't get along and they're not good teammates, it could be negative. But I can tell you, all three of these young men are great teammates and they're great people, and they are very supportive of one another. So I think it really raises all of their performance, and I think that's a good problem to have.
Although it's your first year in a conference for Division I hockey, just in general, talk about how much adding Big Ten hockey changes the landscape. You have your Powers and WCHA and everything like that. It changes the whole landscape.
It does. It does change the whole landscape, and I think I don't think no one knows exactly where that's going to play out in the end. I think that you still have, now you have conference rivalries that you didn't have before. I knew it was always a big game in college hockey. When any of the Big Ten schools played each other, it was a big night. And now you're going to see it in a conference. So I don't know what the end result is going to be. I think you're absolutely correct. It definitely does change the landscape. And where it's going to play out in terms of national powers, I don't know. I think obviously there's a lot of eyes on this conference. I think that there will be new, very, very intense rivalries developed that I said anytime two Big Ten schools get together, it's special. But I think when you're, in this case, when it's new in conference, it's going to be at a whole new level, and I think that's going to. I don't think that in itself will change the landscape, but it's certainly going to be a new focal point for college hockey.
Coach, you got Luke Uha back from injury this year, and adding Mike Williamson. How's the defensive core gotten deeper to this season?
Oh, a lot deeper. We also added Patrick Cowdice, who was a transfer. He's a Washington Capitals draft choice, who has already had 2 years of college under his belt. We have actually, when you talk about Luke Uha, he was hurt most of the year, but so was Mark Yanis. So there's another top defenseman that we have in the lineup, and David Thompson is another new body that you didn't mention, who I think is going to be fantastic for our program. He's a Pennsylvania guy who went up and played in northern, British Columbia and ended up being a captain up there. So that alone, I think, speaks a lot of this guy's character, and he's someone that is really detailed positionally, like really detailed, and I think that's something that we will be a great example for our young D-core. So in terms of the depth, boy, it's night and day. I mean, we certainly have a lot of it, and last year we had two main guys go down for a long period of time. So basically we're almost adding, you could say you're adding 4 guys instead of 3. So that's probably one of the aspects that the coaching staff is most happy with.
What about Jonathan Noe's health?
Well, he's another guy that if you talk about now, other question about adding forwards, if we can get Jonathan Millie healthy and being able to play a number of games, that's going to change things for us as well. He's done a lot of hard work this summer. He's put on a lot of muscle. He feels obviously a lot healthier than he did before. I don't know if he's going to be 100% right out of the gate. It's going to be a bit of a process. But if he can be healthy to play most of the games and feeling good, I mean, he's going to change things as well.
Not to discount your season you coached the Icers were last year, the first D1 back
Mhm.
turn season. But isn't this sort of season what you were gearing up towards when you got hired? And can you talk a little bit about the feeling heading into that, knowing where you've been? The day you got hired, there was a drawing for the building, but there was no building and there was no conference. It didn't exist yet. Sort of where you feel like, this is really why you came here, right?
It is, the entire staff. This is. There's a lot of great things about Penn State University, and certainly to be associated with the Pagulas and this brand new arena is an honor, and it's fantastic. But I don't think any of the staff, they're one of the major reason for coming here is Big Ten hockey. It's something very special, as I mentioned, across North America in terms of college hockey. It's something that we are very hungry for, and when you think back, you try to stay focused on the season at hand, but it was very difficult as coaches. You can see if you come to our meetings, like you talk about the future and what it's going to mean when we're in the Big Ten. So a lot of decisions were made during those 2 years with this in mind. This is why we wanted to come to Penn State. This is an opportunity to play against the very best hockey programs in the history of the sport, and we're excited about it. We're hungry for it. It can't come soon enough, but it really is a different deal. It's why all of us are here, and we really couldn't be more excited about it.
Coach, a few more NHL draft picks on this team than last year. What does that do for this program?
Well, I guess from the outside, people look at it and say, gee, they're starting to attract some pretty good players. But if you ask Coach Fisher, Coach Lindsay, I mean, we have equally high expectations of everybody that we brought in here, NHL draft choice or not. And college hockey has proven to be a great grounds for NHL free agents, guys that have become extremely successful in the National Hockey League, and we feel that we have guys like that. So it's not just, boy, this guy got drafted. I think we feel really strongly about every one of our players that has potential to play professionally after college, but more importantly, whether they're drafted or not, these guys are all young men that really fit well into our program and really fit well into Penn State University. So the moniker that they've been drafted, I guess maybe from the outside you could extrapolate that starting to become attractive to some higher quality players, but at the same time, we're very excited about every guy that we have coming in this program, and more importantly, aside from what they're going to do after graduation, we know they're great people and great student athletes, and they're going to do a great job for Penn State University.
Do you use that are on the recruiting pitch and other new facilities that come up? Do you use NHL talent at all?
I think now with today's age, internet and all these sites, I mean, I think anybody that's serious about us does their homework, and they certainly are aware of the NHL draft choices that are in our lineup. I think it's a positive, but at the same time, I think there's so many other aspects of this program and this university that eclipse that in importance.
Coach, you don't mind talking about the atmosphere of Pagula, but also the Big Ten Conference. Is there a school that you're really looking forward to starting a rivalry with?
Well, I think those things happen. I'm not sure you can actually pre-think which are going to be the extreme rivalries. But I do think that any Big Ten schools, when they get together, I mean, I think it's going to be tough not to develop a rivalry with these teams. And I do have a bit of a history with all of them. I coached in the CCHA and I played in the WCHA, so I do have personal history with a lot of these programs. And I can tell you I do have extremely high expectations of the atmosphere here in Pagula Ice Arena, but I can tell you there's some pretty darn good atmospheres outside too, so I don't think it's going to be tough to develop a rivalry.
Coach, what's the number one question that recruits ask you? What's the number one thing they want to know about the program?
I think that early on, a big question was how do you possibly compete in the Big Ten after 2 years? And I think so. Gordon asked the question if it's changed things. Certainly, the fact that we did have some success against Big Ten teams last year has negated that question a little bit, but it's still, I think, and that's when I talked about the type of players we want, the type of student athletes. We really need student athletes that want to come and embrace an extreme challenge. We're not going to get the guy that just wants to show up and I've arrived and everything's all set and we have this tradition and we already have our identity and a place in what people think is perennial college hockey favorites. So we really need guys that really want to embrace that challenge. Those are the type of players we're looking for, and that's how we have to be successful.
A couple weeks ago, you mentioned you weren't naive about the talent in the Big Ten and some of the other opponents coming here this season. Does the team feel like an underdog at all?
It's a good question. I don't know. It's probably better asked to the players. I don't know how they feel. I think we all feel hungry and honored to compete against these programs. That's for sure. Do we feel like an underdog? I don't know. I think you'll probably have to ask the players that. I think that from a staff, I think we probably feel less the underdog than a lot of people feel we are. But that's because we know how hard these guys work during the summer and how much they love the honor of competing in this conference. And I think the student body here is an extra boost that I don't think people understand. I think there's going to be a lot of college programs when they come here, they're finally going to get a taste and really understand how great Penn State University is and how great our student body is. And I think that's going to mean a lot.
Given the deep history of some of the programs in the Big Ten, do you think maybe it'll take a little while for Penn State to be accepted, even though everyone is new to the conference?
Well, that's a good question. Again, I can't really speculate on how they feel, but I suppose that, how do I say this, the Big Ten schools that we faced in the past that we had success against, if they were feeling that way, they probably feel a little differently now.
Kind of going off of both of those, you guys didn't have anybody on the players to watch list at the Big Ten Media Day. I mean, do you feel like people overlook some of the good guys that you have? I mean,
Well, there are also a couple schools that have never seen us. So certainly, I don't think they could comment on us. And the other schools have seen us. I mean, Ohio State saw us once, and Wisconsin, Michigan State only saw us twice. So certainly, and because we weren't in a conference, it's very difficult to compare. So even if you see someone in the CCHA and you know how they do compared to not only Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, but also last year Notre Dame, Miami, Alaska, et cetera, then you sort of have a better gauge of how they do. With us, there wasn't really anything to compare us to, so I don't take it as a shot. We know we have great players. We know we have great guys in the locker room and great players for Penn State University. So whether we're recognized right now by the rest of the conference doesn't matter to us.
And in terms of your success this season, sometimes you can get away when you play against a lesser opponent, having a few guys that are able to score goals for you. And do you feel like this season's success weighs more heavily on having the guys that played well last year play well, or having them play well and having other guys play well in addition?
Yeah, so we've talked about this a lot as a staff, and we really feel that our biggest factor in that is going to be the players that we had last year in terms of the experience that they got last year, as well as the work that they've done this summer. So I know that we have excellent players coming in. We talked about some of the defensemen coming in, and we're going to be certainly a lot different in depth at all positions. But we also feel that we're going to make huge strides in terms of the experience that these players got last year. Now, one of the benefits is you have very young guys that were put in some key roles that you might not get in other programs. So just offensively, if you look at Casey Bailey and David Glenn, that they were two freshmen that came in that saw a lot of power play time, a lot of 4-on-4 time. They got a lot of experience that you might not get elsewhere. So I think their growth is going to be a major factor. Obviously, to be successful against the teams that we're going to play, you need everybody, from our equipment manager down having a great day. We need everybody. So I can't say that it's going to take a certain group of players more than other. We need everybody to be successful.
Can you talk about the style of play that you're looking to implement, and maybe talk about what you saw last year against the Big Ten teams that you just played?
So the style stays the same. As you know, we're still jumping in the deep end of the pool, to steal your phrase. We play. I think we play an extremely exciting brand of hockey. I know that the hockey fans, whether it's at the old Hershey Arena or just here in Pennsylvania, they like physical play. We're going to go hard to the net. We're going to protect our own net. You're not going to see a difference in how we play, but I think you're going to see a difference in the overall depth and speed and size with the individuals that are doing it. And what we saw in the Big Ten is not everybody in the Big Ten plays the same way, but you certainly see some very high-end talent that you have to be aware of. And I think for a few years, I mean, we just really concentrated on just what we did, and then certainly you see some of the guys in this league, individuals that can pick you apart really quickly if you don't pay added attention. So I'm not saying that we're going to concentrate on our game, but certainly the difference that we'll see night in, night out, individuals that can change a game on their own, that's something we'll have to be aware of.
Coach, you got a little banged up last year on defense. You got down to 5D for a few games. So how was the defense shaping up this year? How important is that to helping your goaltenders?
Yeah, we actually were down 4D for a few games, and it's huge. Team defense is huge. I think that it's not just the defensemen, it's not just goaltenders who let the goals in, it's not just the D-men that play D. It's everybody. But certainly, we talked about the depth. It's huge for us. Like, it's huge. Not only is it's really difficult to play with 4D. Like, it's not you have to play differently. You just can't play a high tempo, aggressive style every shift when you have 4D. You just can't do it. So the injuries that we had actually sort of changed the way that we were forced to play. Now with the depth we have, I think you're going to see a more consistent defensive effort, and certainly they are huge in terms of us playing defense against these top teams. They're going to have to be excellent, as are our goaltenders, as are our forwards coming back. But
Play more physical, like you said,
I think more aggressive, absolutely. You know, there's going to be individuals that it's going to be very difficult just to go flying at, but we certainly can be a lot more aggressive, for sure.
This recruiting class brings in, I think you bring in 6-7 guys to this year's team. What do they bring with them?
Oh, everything. I think we've got, Coach Fisher, Coach Lindsay, you start to identify pieces of the puzzle. So after 2 years, we have a pretty good idea of where we want to go, and we have a pretty good idea of what we're lacking to get there. And so we do have, we do address the size issue, especially on the back. That was really important to us. Obviously, you can't have enough skill playing against the Big Ten schools that we're going to have. And we look at depth at all our positions. We had to get better everywhere. So I know this is a sort of all-encompassing answer, but we had a lot of areas to address. I think we did. And then specifically in terms of size and depth in the back, those we feel very good about what we've brought in.
You said about size, because it's pretty much day one that you want to improve your back end size.
Yeah,
Guys
yeah.
can work in the corner.
Yeah.
Are you there fully? And on top of that, has this really been a 2-year evaluation to build the pieces that you just take last year, or has it been a 2-year evaluation?
Oh, we've been thinking about this from day one before we ever played the first game in Greenberg. I mean, again, our coaching staff and Coach Fisher, Coach Lindsay have been. I mean, they have a very solid vision in mind. They're just not going out and finding the best players. They know where we have to get to and how we have to play. So this has been a 2-year process. And yes, in terms of back end, I mean, Patrick Cowdice is 6'3", Mike Williamson is 6'3". Who am I forgetting here, Billy? Thompson is 6'2". Thank you. We got big guys. It's something that we actually, as I said, addressed. But we're very happy with what we got.
When you recruit nationally, does everybody know what's going on here?
Yeah.
I've talked to you the last couple of years, but everybody knows Penn State, new building, and they're aware of who you are.
Well, they are, and it's been happening ever since Mr. Bagula made the announcement. I think there's been a lot of excitement from not only State College but outside, and now certainly I thought you were leading to recruiting. Now you go, Coach Fisher goes to British Columbia, and there's people coming up to him and talking about the recruits that they know are coming to Penn State there. So there's a lot of excitement about the Big Ten Hockey Conference, and a lot of excitement in terms of what Penn State is doing to compete in that conference, and certainly that's a lot of national knowledge. Yes.
Coach, what do guys have to do, like Casey Bailey, David Glenn? What do they have to do to prove to the rest of the Big Ten that they're legitimate players? I know they were left off the watch list.
I think there's a lot, but in terms of, I think there are some questions. I think they look at the statistics that they put up last year and say that's very impressive. But I think there's a lot of people there saying, well, it's impressive, but let me see if they can do that against Michigan. So to answer your question, they're going to have to answer the concerns that they can have the same production that they had outside of the Big Ten teams in this conference. So I think if they do that, they're going to answer a lot of skeptics' questions.
Time for a couple more.
Talked a lot about having a physical system. What does getting a guy like Jonathan Billy back add to the forecheck?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's 6'4". He weighed in at one point. He was, I think, 242. He's put on a lot of muscle, but what you don't see is he actually, through a lot of rehab, he was, I believe he was top 2 in sprint and top 3 in sprint, top 2 in lap. I mean, he's put in a lot of work and he can move. So in terms of forecheck, if you can get a big body that can move, you're going to add a certain element to your team that you didn't have in the past. So along with him, there's another freshman, Zach Saar, is 6'5", 230 something. Very well put together, can move as well, and I think those guys are going to create havoc. I don't think there's anybody that's going to come in here and be excited to play against those two forwards.
Hey, Coach, just walking around the arena last week, we saw the video suites, the hydrotherapy room. How do those features and everything else this building has, how will they enhance what you do as a coaching staff with just creating a game plan and keeping you guys healthy?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's going to enhance what we do in terms of attracting top student athletes to Penn State, but in terms of keeping people healthy, that's a very good point. Everything that the Pagula Ice Arena is a beautiful place. It's a great place to watch a game, and it's going to have tremendous atmosphere. But also is extremely convenient, not only in its location, right in the middle of campus, but also the amenities that it has to make it very convenient and cutting-edge stuff for the student athlete in terms of training and rehab and getting better. And that's going to be a big deal. I mean, these guys are they have a great work ethic, but to be able to combine that with the convenience that Pagula Ice Arena affords us, it's going to be a significant factor.
Guy, you had sort of hinted at this last year, but David Glenn now's got an A on his jersey. What about his play, what about his personality stood out to give him that A on his jersey?
Well, you can ask the players that because they voted him, and but I can tell you from a coaching staff standpoint, he's a hockey player. Like, it's really hard to describe him any other way. He's a hockey player. Everything that doesn't necessarily show up on the score sheet, he does so well. I mean, he wins. He was our top guy in faceoffs. He led our team in hits. He blocks shots. He scores dirty goals. He scores pretty goals. He makes great plays. And things that he protects the puck so well something that, obviously you can't have a stat at, but he protects the puck so well, so he really makes people around him better. He takes a lot of attention by protecting the puck. He really goes to dirty areas. He's not afraid to go in the corners or in front of the net. He gets a lot of work done that, it takes a lot of courage, let's say. He's a guy that plays with a ton of courage. He's a hockey player, and I'm sure we see, the staff sees the exact same thing that his teammates does.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate being here.
First set of players.